Welcome to Law Enforcement Coaching. Meet the coach with founder Tammy Sharp. Today we are speaking with one of our coaches, Mica Lunt. Get to know a little about Mica and see if he may be the right coach for you.
Hi, Mica. Thank you for being here today. For anybody that's coming onto this video, the whole intention and purpose is just for you to get to know Mica, one of our coaches, see if he might be the right fit for you. And with that, Mica, I'm just going to allow you to jump in and introduce yourself.
Awesome. Thank you, Tammy. It is an absolute pleasure to be here with you and with anybody that is at all interested in coaching. So I've been a coach for a long time, working with folks in the government space, and I even have some private sector coaching clients as well. Little bit about my background. I started out as a police officer down in the city of College Station, where Texas A&M University is. If you're an Aggie fan, I'm sorry. I am not, but I did love starting there as a police officer. Working in a college town was a great place to learn how to be a cop. Got a lot of great experience. After that, I went to the city of Plano, which is a big suburb of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, for those that might not be familiar. Made my way up to the command staff and then served as a police chief of another suburb of Dallas for a period of time. So that's the very brief version of my law enforcement background. I have a lot of battle scars from different decisions and things that happened to me along the way, but in every case was able to actually persevere and make it through those struggles. So I have experienced, on the personal side, things with my wife, but we've been married now for coming up to 20 years. And so my primary goal as a law enforcement coach here is to help folks navigate those struggles and persevere and succeed in ways that you may not think is possible or never thought was possible. So it's a real pleasure to be here and hopefully work with some of these folks.
Awesome. So you would be a great coach for, chiefs. I'm going to talk on that because we had a chief one time. He's like, "Oh, you mean that there's something other than curling up in the fetal position under my desk and crying? Like there's actually somebody that I could talk to." So it's great that you have that chief experience. So the chiefs and the leadership people and those that want to promote, I know you'd be happy to work with somebody that's like, "Hey, eventually I want to be a chief." And what would you say to somebody that's like starting their career, but maybe, just the promotional process or kind of, I don't even know, there's so much there, but like there's some people
Yes.
think they should promote and they don't necessarily want to and maybe shouldn't, or and then others that might hesitate. So what would you say to those that are looking to promote into leadership roles?
Yeah. So number one, I would be very happy to talk to you, and I think you get a great deal of value out of my experience. So I've been through many promotional processes as a participant. I have also ran promotional processes to include assessment centers, some of your traditional, just letter of interest and oral board type processes, all the way up to pretty complicated processes. So I've been through a lot of those with various aspects of testing and so on. That I know I can help folks as they kind of figure out what's going to happen. Similarly, when I first began to promote, I had another sergeant come to me and say, you're never going to think it's the right time, but it's the right time for you, and move forward. And he had some very specific reasons as to why, and it turned out to be the right decision. Now, that being said, for those sort of on their supervisor to mid-manager to chief level journey, when I started, I sucked as a supervisor. I was not good at it at all. And that's some of the battle scars that I'm talking about. And it took me about 3 years of having those stripes before I really began to apply all of that great leadership training that I got sent to. It was a hard practical gap to fill from the theoretical in the classroom, and the books that I read, the podcasts that I listened to actually doing it myself. And that's something that I know that I can and have done in the past in terms of getting people to that point faster. So, and then, for you chiefs out there, there's an old saying that leadership is lonely. And I actually tend to disagree with that. I think if leadership is lonely, you're not doing it right. But what's absolutely lonely is responsibility.
Mhm.
And for chiefs of police, there is no one else that has the responsibilities that you do. And coming from somebody that spent a little bit of time in that seat, more than happy to provide support and encouragement to help get through some of those sticky situations.
That's really interesting that you said that, because I ask every chief that I talk to, but all the officers, and we do surveys and all this stuff all the time. And one of the things that I ask, why have you stayed? Like, why are you still doing this? And responsibility is the number one answer that everybody says. Like, they have a responsibility, and especially in that chief role, they're not. It can be hard, and all of these things are happening, but they have a responsibility, and they are not just going to abandon everybody, right? So I absolutely love that you say that. And it doesn't have to be lonely. I like how you said, if
Right.
you're doing it right, it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be lonely. And I think that's, kind of where we're at with shifting some of that old cultural mindset of, not talking about it, not showing any vulnerability because it's weakness. I know from just talking to officers from all over, some of the best chiefs were the ones that were vulnerable, that did admit, hey, I sucked when I started. That's great. Uh, so when you say that you sucked in a leadership role, I'm guessing, was listening one of those things, or hear, like, not
Well,
for you. I'm just saying in general. That's
no, listening was huge because I kind of thought I had it all figured out, and I tried to make officers like me, not like me as in like me as a friend, but be like me,
oh,
um, when in terms of how they perform their duties and so forth. And it took a little bit for that notion that these are all individuals to click, and then once it did, and I started understanding all the differences and all the different things that go into motivation and behavior, then it was a whole lot easier for me to cater my approach more specifically. But some of that you just kind of have to learn by doing. And what I can really provide there is just getting folks to avoid some of the pitfalls. Um, but 100% back to what you said about leadership and responsibility and whether or not it's lonely or not. What I love about coaching is that it gives you that advocate that 100% of the time we're in your corner as a coach,
yeah,
and you do not have to be alone, whether it be a dark place or it be just a place that you don't know who you can go to talk through that particular struggle. And chiefs, aside, unless it's another chief or a coach or something like that, lots of times that peer group is really, really small or non-existent.
yeah, and the trust issue. It's like you don't know, especially as a chief, you don't know who you can actually talk to because anything that you say can be misconstrued or shared, used against you, whatever. So it is a very, very small pool of who you can actually trust and talk to. So I love that you are part of the team, and that people can reach out to you. Um, you also had mentioned relationships. You've been married for 20 years, and you guys had some of the growing pains that come with a law enforcement life, I'm assuming, right? So
Yeah.
you're able to coach on that relationship dynamic. So I'll have you speak on that a little bit too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was really fortunate. In October of this year, it'll be 20 years together with my wife, and we had the experience of meeting and dating and going through our engagement and all of that, all prior to my becoming a police officer and entering the profession of policing. Um, so she's been there through it all, the development of that, the growing pains of becoming a supervisor and all the way up to a chief, uh, and there too, the academy to field training to being on deep nights for a period of time to then being on the same schedule. And we tell this story frequently. When I became a lieutenant, that was when I moved to a more traditional, typical schedule. And we had to learn how to be in the bathroom at the same time, because that was never the case, just from a logistical standpoint. And that's just kind of a funny example. But our relationship fundamentally changed when we weren't meeting each other, me coming in and her going out in the morning. Was a big adjustment for us. So that, and when I was the training commander in Plano, we had a spousal and significant other support group that we put together, and just helping folks navigate those challenges. Number one, I am a firm believer that there are things that you don't want to necessarily share, but sharing more than less is probably best. And I can help you work through that, so that you have that fundamental layer of understanding. If not, your person with whom you've kind of committed the rest of your life, they don't get to know you, the whole you.
Yeah.
And that can really be a struggle in relationships.
That is something that we teach on a lot, is that balance, because a lot of officers will come home and they will dump everything onto their spouse. And then the spouse is left to hold it, but they don't have any support or anybody to talk to. So that's why we're huge advocates for, not only are we supporting the sworn and civilian side of the profession, but we offer the spouse support too, so that they have somebody, so that they're not holding all this crap, because you can get secondhand trauma for sure. And then the other thing, the officers will come home and they won't say anything. And that we're trying to train the spouses to understand, it's not that they're isolating and not sharing, they're protecting you. You don't need to hear about dead babies and all of these things, that they're protecting you. But the spouse a lot of times will take it as my person shutting down. They're not, I don't know who they are. I don't know what's going on. I can't help. And it creates that disconnect, and then the resentment and everything else. So for you, I love that you have all that experience and that you're such an asset to our team as we're helping create training for spouses and significant others as well. What would you say to a significant other or a spouse of an officer, to have them have a little bit more understanding of how to support their person?
You know, Tammy, that's such a great question. And I think I think the basic fundamental way to answer it is, ask, just straight up. I can see X in your partner, whatever that may be, frustration or a change in mood. And I want to support you as best I can. How can I best do that? What do you need from me? And see what they say. Now, there's a lot of different avenues that things might go after that, but I would say that's a good place to start. Starting with that observation, what do you notice? Then indicating, okay, how is it that I can support you in what you need? That's a good starting point, at least. And then being flexible.
Amazing. So as we wrap this up, because keep it brief, but first and foremost, who is your ideal client? Who would you absolutely love to work with and would bring you joy? You can work with anybody. You have so much experience, but who are your ideal?
So I'm going to give you three quick pieces. So one is any formal leader that is struggling with anything leadership, management, supervision related. And so I'm talking about a field training officer to a sergeant, first line supervisor, to a mid-level manager in a commander type rank, all the way to a command staff. And then working through those issues, leadership, management, supervision. Those are three fundamentally different things, in my opinion, that I train on and have a lot of experience to bring to bear to help you sort through that. Number two would be folks suffering from significant other relational issues, as kind of we touched on a little bit in our conversation. And then number three is just what I would call like career trajectory type coaching. So, am I in the right place? What's my next move? I'm not feeling entirely comfortable, whatever. I can really help sort through those issues and would be honored to work with anybody.
Awesome. And I love that you're able to do that, because also some of these smaller departments they're kind of hurting, where it's like there's kind of a gap. There's 15, 20-year vets, and then your next line leader is like got 3 to 5 years in, and they're having to go into a supervisor role. And they gotta learn quick. And so there's a lot of trust, there's a learning curve there. So I think working with you, they could actually, again, avoid some of the harder lessons, and improve their leadership abilities earlier in their career to set them up for success. And avoid, yeah, be liked. I know that when you move into a leadership position, there's some stories that go around that sometimes, and it's not always positive. So it's
Yes,
worth
ma'am.
it.
100%.
Awesome. So thank you so much for being on this call. And for anybody that would like to work with Mica, you can just go to his profile and look at his availability, book a session, and get moving on your leadership or relationship or whatever you want to do. So thank you again. Thank you all.